everyone. Welcome to episode 10 of Wild Conversations. I'm Jess.
And I'm Steve. And we've got a cat just walking across the keyboard that could cause bedlam.
Thank you, Winston. That was really helpful of you. Right, okay, so this week we have got a lot of things to talk about. But first things first, I think we should cover something we've been talking about covering for the last, 3 weeks. Plastic chairs. We've got plastic chairs on that board and we've had it there for 3 weeks, and you keep saying every single episode, at the end of the episode, next week we'll talk about plastic chairs, and we haven't.
No. And I forgot now. So basically where plastic chairs come into it is we started building and
yes.
we got the main, so remember where we are, we're at the place.
Yes.
And we've had all the fences blown away.
Yeah, we've had an aviary.
We had an aviary roof blow away.
We have.
But what we did do is we then all got our heads down and we got the main structure built. So basically we probably had, when I say these things, I'm always shocked at the fact that when people very first came to see us, I'm always shocked they came back.
Right.
Because there was nothing here.
Right.
So if you imagine week before, we talked about planting the 2,000 conifers.
We did.
They're only that big. So they're only like 18 inch, 2 foot. So that
just sticks in the ground.
So they weren't no perimeter. What we did do, which I never mentioned, is me and one of the chaps, remembering we'd only just moved to this area.
Yep.
And me and one of the chaps were talking about, all we've got is these miniature conifers all the way around. And it didn't look anything at all. There was no perimeter. I don't know. I wouldn't have come back to the place.
Right.
So the fact we get 100,000 now is, I'm sorry for conning you all. I have no idea how they came back. So basically, and I said...
One thing everyone does say, though, when they do come back is, oh, aren't your gardens lovely?
Well, they say that, and it's always a different place when they come back. There's always something new.
They would say, oh, hasn't it changed since we've last been? We're like, yeah.
We've never stopped.
We never stop.
No.
We put a new lick of paint on it every year.
We started with a shovel in his hands, and that shovel has never got took away.
Yeah,
it's always been there.
It's always been there.
So one of the things that I said was, we really could do with... when you think about it, this is really interesting. One of the big things that we talk about now when we have a zoo inspection, one of the first things they look at is the perimeter fence.
It is, yes.
I don't think 18-inch conifers would have actually kept anything in.
No,
or
I
out.
don't think it would. Lots of wind.
Lots of wind,
would
yeah.
Wind out, but
so,
yeah.
But they were only that big. so I did say to one of the guys, I do think we need something.
Right.
So It
would have been really good for a miniature zoo. Or a miniature sanctuary.
Yeah,
mini conifers.
That'd have probably worked. We went around, one of the things we found out is around the countryside, there's lots of auctions. Different types of auctions.
Did you say auctions or auctions?
Auctions.
Auctions, okay.
Oh, you know that way they sell things?
Yes, an auction.
Auctions.
Yes.
In Sheffield, they call them auctions. Anyway, and we went down to one in Boston, and they'd got, I was looking around, there weren't much there. There were a few bits of wood, but I saw in the corner, I was talking to a chap, and he'd got about a dozen sheets of trellis. You know trellis? Do you know what trellis is?
Yeah, that stuff that you put ivy up.
That's right, yeah. So it's usually like in
I've got lots of that in Disney Dreamlight Valley.
Oh,
lots of trellis I have. Looks lovely, it does.
Well,
in my imaginary garden, it looks lovely.
Well, it used to be about £4 a piece then. We're talking 25 years ago.
Right.
It used to be about £4 a piece. And a chap had about a dozen lengths.
About three grand.
Yeah, it would do in Dreamworld. And it probably costs that now.
It probably does, to be fair.
But I was actually, there was a chap selling some.
At this auction?
At the auction.
Right.
And he'd got about 15 or 20 lengths.
Right.
So I went to see him and I said, how much do you want for them, mate? I don't know what I thought I was going to do with him. And he said, make me an offer. So I said, I don't know.
Were they broken? Were they in pieces?
No, I don't know if he'd have made them or anything.
Oh, right.
And he says, how much are you thinking? I said, how much have you got? And he says, as much as you want. And I said, well, I can see how much you've got. And he says, as much as you want, because I make it out of old pieces of wood.
Oh, right. Okay, so he really did actually make it.
He did actually make it, yeah.
Okay.
And so laughing and joking, I'm quite good with maths, quite quick. These were about
I'm not. I'm terrible at maths.
these were about a foot wide,
and
about 6 foot high.
Right.
So I very quickly worked out. So about 30 centimetres.
So about you tall.
About me tall.
And about Winnie long.
About you wide.
I'm going to take that as a compliment, actually.
So that's a compliment. Yeah, about a foot, something like that. So I said, so I quickly worked out and I thought, right, the first area, 30 centimetres.
Hang on,
Well, if that's a foot, that's not a foot, no, it's 30 centimetres, it's about that.
wide?
Yeah.
As in like,
So got,
they were really thin?
yeah, they were like that, and then that thin, and then like that, and then 6 foot high. What trellis have you got?
My trellises are like this big.
Yeah, because there'll be loads of pieces, that's right. But the trellis is usually about a foot wide, 6 foot high.
What?
We will follow the trellis life afterwards, yeah. So you usually get 2 squares on it, don't you?
I'm going to research a trellis. Go on, carry on your story. I'm going to bring it up on Google.
Go on then. So they're about 30 centimetres wide and about 180. So like them pieces there, look on.
I'm going to bring it up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What? So like these ones?
Like them, yeah. But they were square, but they were just square. Yes, and wooden.
Like this?
Yes.
Hang on, let me bring this up on Twitch so you guys can see it.
Sorry for guys on Facebook, but it's you can't see it.
Where's the?
And neither can.
It is.
Oh, it's there. Look.
Like this.
Like that kind of thing.
Like that one.
But with bigger gaps, because that's only got tiny gaps in it. These have got like the one at the bottom. These got like 6-inch gaps.
Oh,
in
what,
it.
like this?
Yes.
But not as wide.
No, only literally.
When I'm
1
talking
foot.
trellis, I'm thinking like this.
Oh, I see.
Like
Right.
huge.
No.
That's what.
So a trellis. So he'd got these pieces laid down.
Right.
And I said, how many have you got? And he said, as many as you want. So I said, all right. So I try and work it out.
You need a lot of these teeny tiny trellises.
Yes. So I'm actually sat there and I'm like, I stood there talking to him. While I'm talking to him, you could see I'd gone a bit vague.
Right.
Because I was measuring.
Okay.
I was measuring how
In
much
maths
we'd
world.
done in maths world. And I'm thinking, right, it's 120 foot wide what we've just done. It's 700 foot long. So that'd be 1,400 foot. And then 100, that's like, have you got 1,500?
1,500?
Anyway, yep. And
Absolutely, in my back garden, mate.
And I said, what? So he said, yeah, I've got 1,500, no problem. I said, you've got 1,500? So he says, yes. I says, how much do you want from me? He says, no idea, give me a price. So I said, I'll give you 25 pence each. So that worked out about £400.
Right.
And he said, yep, okay, where do you want them delivering? So I looked at the mates and I thought, what? Is this bloke just having me on?
It sounds like
he's got somebody from the town and he's just going to have him on as I've got 15. He delivered them 2 days later. We turned into Trellis World. I'm not kidding. I've used it. In fact, I'm sure there's still bits of trellis.
Yeah,
so when we've been working, when we built Ark,
yes,
and we had to take the fence down,
yes,
that was all trellis.
Yeah, I remember that.
Every time we've took conifers out, these conifers grew within the trellis. In fact, some of them took the trellis with them. Some of the trellis ended up being about 5 foot higher than off the ground. They took it with it. So
sky trellis.
That's it, with sky trellis. That's it, with no bottom. I don't know where it stopped. So I ended up literally going all the way around the park. And what I'll do for you guys, I've done it because I said I was going to do it for the staff. The photos we take now, I've been taking forever.
Yeah.
So all the trellises, when it was very first put in, I've got photos of it with the little conifers.
Oh, we could do that because I can bring them up as a pop-up.
And then I'll bring them up and show you. So it is literally. But
we could have we could have a show and tell podcast
yes.
where we show
could
you
do
all
that.
the old photos.
That's what we'll do. That's a good idea. Yes, we'll find out after
that. The only problem is you'll only be able to see the show and tell on Twitch.
Well, no, we'll find a way of doing it. We'll get it on a.
We'll
bring an iPad and put it on an iPad so we can actually show them on. That's okay, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah.
We can do that.
You all right?
There'll be something I was trying to work out for you. I twisted then like an idiot. And then I froze because I felt a little bit sick. Then I thought if I faint live, it's going to look stupid. So everything just went a little bit grey then. I thought,
should we get an interactive whiteboard?
I was seeing if we could get. That's what I was thinking.
We've been watching Maya from Alveus. She's incredible. She's
very
stunning.
successful.
She's doing so amazing, and she's just literally had a new studio built, funded by Twitch, which is incredible. But she's got a new interactive whiteboard, and I'm very intrigued.
Don't ask me how I know these people, but there's a chap, he might be on here. I don't think he is. They call him Tom Osborne.
Oh yeah.
He's one that invented a lot of these interactives. He does them all the schools, so we might be able to get one. Tom. So anyway, we've gone all the way around the park now with trellis.
Yes.
Okay, so we're ready for opening.
Right.
We've got a few aviaries.
In Trellis World.
In Trellis, we're ready to open Trellis World. So we've got a few aviaries. Most of the aviaries look very similar.
Yeah.
Because they're all brand spanking new, silver shiny. Like, if the sun came out, you couldn't see a bloody thing. Like that.
Blinded.
You were blinded. So we got everything. I contacted the local garden centre, which in them days they were only one around. They only called it Bay Tree.
Yes.
And I went down. There was
a
chap there called Reinhard. Can you remember him? He was the owner. So I went down to see him, and I said, "I'm sorry, I'm the chap up at the that's just built
the crazy wildlife park,
the Trellis World. I'm the chap from Trellis World." And he said, "Yes, I've heard about you. You're the idiot that bought them all. Been trying to get shut up for years." And so, and he says, "Yes." I
wonder what that would have looked like on Google Maps. I wonder if you had a drone then, what a Trellis World would have looked like.
I've got a lot of photos. We'll see if we can reconstruct it because there was 100. Well, there were. Don't forget, this is only around the perimeter.
Right.
If you imagine halfway up where Ark is,
yes,
there used to be a trellis wall up there as well.
Oh my word!
That's what all the paths were. So everything.
Like a maze of trellis.
It was all trellis. It was lovely. The little kids when they first come, they thought this is all for us. The climbing frame. You just find kids halfway up and all the way around.
Did you actually?
I said to Pete and Tony, make sure you make this strong, because the kids were up them. They thought that was part of it.
Wonderful.
So we got all this, literally all around.
Went to Bay Tree.
So I went down to Bay Tree, and I said to Reinhard, I don't know how to do this, but we've just built a little park up there.
Yes.
And there's a huge garden in the middle, and
it's full of trellis.
and there's trellis around it, but there's only soil. And he says, "What do you want?" I said, "Well, plants, cheap, because we've got no money." And he said, "No problem, I'll kit you all out with plants.
Yeah.
You'll just put me a little sign in saying from Reinhard at Bay Tree," which is what we did. So we got that all sorted out. That was done. We were ready to open.
Okay.
It's all finished. And it's a really strange thing. You're walking around this park at night time. Never had a customer on it. Didn't even know if any customers were going to turn up.
Oh my God.
So the next morning, you're there with a key, ready to open it. And I looked around and I thought, this is brilliant. I don't know if you imagine, but if you imagine our...
So did you just... I'm assuming you didn't do any research into what documentation you needed? And...
Same day, a zoo licensing woman turned up. I'd never even heard of a zoo licence. Called her Sue Thornton.
Right.
And Sue might watch one of these. Probably, I would say, the best zoo vet around, because she's very strict, she's very fair, but she understands zoos. Yeah. And there's another chap called Ken Sims. He's exactly the same. And he once said to me, and he used to go all over the country doing these, and he said the difference between zoo inspectors of today, or some zoo inspectors of today, and the zoo inspectors of those days is, in those days, they knew that zoos were always building. Yes. They knew there was always evolving.
Progression, yeah.
So if you went, and he says if you'd go around and you see half a dozen new things and 4 old things, we never told them to do the old things, because we knew they'd already started. Yes. Whereas today they'll turn around and say, you haven't done them, so that fails. You know, that kind of thing. So Sue turned up, Sue Thornton, and she said, you do know that you need a zoo licence, don't you? And I said, what's a zoo licence?
What's that?
I've never driven a zoo.
You didn't say that to her.
No, I just said to her, I said, what's a zoo licence? So she's, because she's showing, so zoo licences were if you displayed for a price non-indigenous animals for more than 7 days a year, then you needed a zoo license. Yeah, so
it's like it's essentially only for if you are charging people to visit the collection.
Yes, there has to be a commercial benefit to it. So if it was free, you don't need one. So maybe one day, yeah, you never know. You could come in free.
That would be lovely.
That'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
And we wouldn't have to have a zoo license.
Stop dreaming. So anyway, so we've got, so this is where we're at now. So Sue turned up. Yep. Well, she turned up throughout the day. Yep. So I'm ready to open at 10 o'clock, very excited, ready to open the gates. And I stand round and I look round and I said, oh. And Dawn says, what? I said, we've got us a little cafe, lovely, with a little counter smaller than this table, and a kettle. Lovely. Didn't have a burko, we had a kettle. Don't know what we thought we were doing. Got a kettle. Right. And then I said, where are they going to sit? He says, what do you mean? I said, we forgot. We haven't got no tables and chairs.
Oh my God. You had a cafe with no tables and chairs?
Yeah, because we did everything. We'd built it from scratch, got it all built up, never even thought that you had to have tables and chairs in it. So, and I said, but we ain't got no money. When we opened, I don't think we had 50 quid. And it was like, what do we do? So there was a special on at B&Q. Right. Honestly. And there was a patio table and 4 chairs for a tenner.
Lovely.
On special offer.
Okay.
So I went and borrowed 50 quid,
Nice.
put it in my 50 quid, and bought 10 of these.
Okay.
The wobbliest tables you've ever known. Brought them back, built them.
Yeah.
You just shoved them together and
Yeah.
put them in. And got them all set out. Put a tablecloth on them. Well,
Made it fancy.
Made a fortune that day. Because every person that sat down with a cup of tea knocked it over. They
So they had to buy another cup
they
of
were
tea.
wobbling everywhere. What a nightmare. But that was like the very first day of opening.
Yeah.
How many people turned up? Probably.
So when did you decide to, like, when did you turn around and go, you know what, tomorrow's the day?
What a strange thing that is. I think really what you do is, because obviously we all watch TV, and when you watch TV and they say, oh, and the opening day is on the 1st of May and the deadline's getting closer and closer. I didn't do that. I just looked at, because we opened on the 3rd of June,
Yeah.
which is nothing.
Yeah.
We just picked a Saturday and just thought a Saturday would be easy.
Yeah.
We were as finished could be, but it was just a
Yeah.
day. There was nothing special about it. Well, the day before we were due to open, one of the things that had happened is, and I've got photos of this as well, is I was obviously, if you listen to some of the podcasts from before, I used to train Pets at Home staff.
Yes.
And part of training them was how to handle parrots and things like that. And obviously Pets at Home, and I do remember this really vividly. Pets at Home obviously had a lot of money.
Yeah.
An awful amount of money. And the owner of Pets at Home was a chap called Anthony Preston, who I really, really admired, and he were very good. And he liked what I did. We worked together a little bit. I got him quite a bit of advertising. We did quite well with each other. And I was actually doing at one of their stores, and he came to see me. And he said, I've heard you're opening to the public. So I said, I am, that's right. And he said, I've left you something in the warehouse for when you go. So I said, oh, that's lovely, that's lovely. So I thought it was going to be like a good luck card, something like that. And what it was is, above all, because we've just walked through our door, the big parrot head above the door.
Yes.
It was that.
Oh, right, okay.
It was this. They'd used it in some of their stores.
Yeah.
And he thought, and every time I used to see this, he would say, one day I'll be able to afford one of them. Because there were thousands of pounds.
One.
And he gave me one. He gave me this fiberglass one, yes. So then we had it painted and got it all done up and everything. So what I did is, on the entrance, I'm gonna drop one or two names here, which they were naughty people. They were very naughty people. Don't worry. So I put it on the entrance as you came in the door, and got it all up there. And then this chap from the council called Mr. Graham Hyde.
Right.
Mr. Hyde, did you ever know how big we was going to be coming? He turned up.
Right.
And he said, what's that up there?
That's me parrot, that is.
That's a parrot said. Says you haven't got planning permission for it.
For a giant head?
I says, what, for putting a giant head above my door? So he says, yeah, you need a planning permission for that. So I said, So he says, yeah, can you take it down? Made me take it down. Before we let people in, I had to take it down. So I got a zoo licence, which were bad enough, to take my parrot down. That's why we had to leave it round the back.
Oh my God.
I mean, one of the other things he said to me when he came, when we were building, he says, and listen to this, is how daft it was. He said, so as we were building the place, they had no idea what a parrot sanctuary was.
No.
So they were quite frightened.
Yeah.
And so one of the restrictions they gave me was you couldn't have any aviaries
I like this restriction.
higher than any trees. How big were our trees that I've just put in?
18-inch.
So they were to be all like rabbit runs. So I said to him, they didn't know trees, Graham.
I'm in a field.
And he stood with me. He actually made this. He was stood in the field with me, and he went, oh, yeah. So I said, do you mean them trees over there? So he says, all right. And we were there, and he says, 8 foot then. No aviaries higher than 8 foot.
Okay.
Or 2.5 metres.
Higher than the trees.
Or higher than the trees. So I said, right, okay. So we'd built them all to 8 foot. So every single area was 8 foot, which was a bit poor. Yeah. A bit rubbish, a parrot, but we had an option.
For a starting point,
and we had an option.
We were given the guidelines, and that was it.
You'll do that.
Yeah.
So obviously, what I did do, because I'm not thick in these kind of situations, I started planting some really quick growing trees. I needed to replace these areas as quick as I could. So the other thing he said to me is, and this is another one of his really like amazing comments.
Right.
He says, "Don't forget, Steve, it's a parrot sanctuary." I said, "Yep." and you're going to be open to the public, so you're going to be an attraction. I said, yes. So he says, when you build the toilets, can you build them like a horse stable? So can you not remember when you very first started
like a
here?
horse stable.
Yeah, so they all had to look like barns, like a stable. So they were all built so that you'd got the black door, as though the door was open and the door on the side. Again, I'll show you some of these photographs. So we had to make our toilets so they kept in with the environment to look like horse stables. And that's one of his restrictions.
Oh, because it was
because we were in the
aesthetic thing.
Yeah, it was just aesthetic. Yeah. So we had to build, and so we'd
So
got.
he gave you a theme.
Yeah, we had to have a theme. Yeah, like a rabbit running stables. So that's what we had to do. That was another one of his. So Mr. Hyde, did you realise how big we was going to get?
Because we are quite big.
Because we are quite big.
I mean,
now.
the other thing is, unfortunately, not unfortunately for us, but unfortunately for the restrictions, is trees grow. They grow real big.
Well, so the aviary started to follow quite quickly. But where we got away with that, and we will talk about this in one or two coming, where we really got away from that is, obviously, what they do is sometimes when the councils are working with you, if they do something that sets a precedence, then you can work up to their precedence.
Yes.
And when the council asked me to look after the tigers, and I said, go on then, and I then designed the highest enclosure in the country at 6 meters, and they couldn't really say no because we was taking them on for them. All our aviaries can now follow if we need, because the highest thing on site is 6 meters. So there was a few crafty little things, a few cheeky little things. So we got people in.
So just going back a little bit more though.
Yes.
So obviously you built the sanctuary with in mind that you wanted essentially the sick children to come and visit you, because
that was the original plan.
Them.
Yes.
So that's why you opened the doors in the first place. Obviously it became customers then instead of.
Well, yeah, because initially it was going to be private.
It broadened.
Yes, initially it was just going to be private, and there was really no intentions of actually being. Remember, I was supposed to be semi-retiring at this.
Yeah.
There was no intentions of actually being opened.
How do you feel semi-retired?
It's brilliant. What you need to do, this is really good advice, if you want to actually act as though you are semi-retired, break your bike. Take it as advice, break your bike.
Break your bike.
Because I'm actually hardly working now.
Yeah, no, you are.
I'm just doing bits of paperwork, walking around like I own the place.
It's done your world of good.
Yeah, it's done me, and I'm getting used to it. It's not very good in the head, but I'm getting used to it. So the idea was that I was going to be like semi-retired, working from home, looking after parrots, letting these children come to see me. Perfect.
Lovely.
But
so then you opened the doors on a random Saturday.
Well, it went random, in June, yes. So we opened and a few people turned up.
And how much did you charge back then?
I think it was £3 for an adult.
3 squids.
Something about £3. Yeah, about £3 for an adult.
Weirdo parrots in some weirdo's back garden.
But the worst part, that's it. That's exactly what it was. But when I got it all, and I literally, strangely enough, designed where every tree went, because it was only me, and I'd got it all designed how to do everything and oh God, when I think about paths, I don't know, honestly, it's so embarrassing. When I look at the pattern imprinted concrete paths we've got now, I asked a chap if he'd got some planings, and he said yes, because one of the things I didn't realise is, well, this sounds so stupid, how big a car is and how many cars you can get on a car park, and then you realise the little area I'd set out for a car park
wasn't big enough.
Probably get like a dozen cars in it. I don't know how many people. I had no idea. I'm a bit thick with this. I had no idea what I was doing here, honestly. And then obviously on that first day, I think we probably got about 50 to 100 people. So that's like 25 cars.
Holy moly, Steve.
We were full in the first 20 minutes. People parking on roads. So one of the names is a chap called Ivan Wright. Now, Ivan Wright, if you remember, he's the chap that came and told me there's always 10 minutes sun on a Saturday.
Oh, right, yes.
So
the sun man.
The sun man. So he turned up and he said, what are you doing about your car park, Steve? Now, he's one of these people that he was a local sprayer. He used to just spray all the fields and everything around. Not him himself.
Was it a local sprayer? That's not right.
He had a spraying company. He used to spray fertiliser and things like that. Not going around weighing on people or like that.
Local sprayer turns up at wildlife park.
And all the customers follow. So he says, what are you doing about your car parks? I said, I have no idea. So we've got to do something. He says, right. And this is how cheeky he was. And some people in the countryside are so forward, like Henry. When we talk about Henry, he's like one of the funniest people on the planet, and he's never told a joke in his life. Just the way he talks and just the way he says things,
it's funny.
I can't breathe. We don't have a proper conversation. And he always thinks, I wonder why he's laughing at me. Because he doesn't say it to be funny. He just says things and like you just crack up. So we got, I said, I don't know what we're going to do about the car park. He says, you need some planings. He said, I've just seen them digging the roads up. He says, you know what the roads are like round here? And I said, well, they're not that bad. He says, you'll wait and see they are. About an hour and a half later, he came back and he says, this is Bill. I said, hello, Bill. He says, he's digging the road up down there and he's got 5,500 tonne of planings and we can have them at £1 a tonne.
Lovely.
And I says, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know what 500 tonne of planings look like. So we'd got Mount Everest. So we got 25 cars at the front and Mount Everest at the back. And I thought, there's me stood with my shovel and a rake. I'm going to do with this. So he says, right, what we need to do is...
Oh, no.
So there's a few names there. He says, we need somebody with a digger. Gordon Fox. Right, who's Gordon Fox? Don't worry, gets on the phone. He's got little mobile phones about that big.
Right.
A little flip. Hello, Gordon. I'm up at Parrot Farm. Let's even call it proper name. I'm up at Parrot Farm, we need a digger. How long? Right, it'll be up in 20 minutes.
Right.
So he turns up in this digger.
Okay.
Says, what we're going to do now? He says, we need to flatten it.
Okay.
So he sets off pushing it about. The speed he did things.
Right.
But obviously we realised it were a little bit spongy. So I said, and I'm into building and everything, but I'd never done anything on this scale for car parks on soil. And he says, we need a roller. I drove past somebody who was in a roller this morning. Disappears, honestly. This is all true. I mean, I've got photos. None of this is fabrication. So I'm like saying to Gordon, level this bit, and as he's doing it, I'm going, what's that? And I could feel it. I thought, oh my God, we're having an earthquake. I sees the biggest roller that's supposed to be on the back of a wagon, and he's drove it at 3 miles an hour, crushed all the roads, even everything. And Ivan's Miles sat up on top, this little farmer, waving down at us. What? Anyway, he sets off.
Oh, I can't breathe.
He set off on this, rolling this. And the one thing about Ivan is once he started a job, he didn't stop until it was finished.
What's Ivan doing now?
I think he's about 88. I think he wore himself out. Do you know the other thing that Ivan did? Dug all his lakes out.
Shut up, did he really?
With Henry's machinery. When it comes to lakes, I'll keep jumping off these stories. I bought next door because I said we need a nature reserve. And I'm obviously so flippant with things. I'll put a lake in. And so me and Ivan drilled this lake, and then Ivan went home, so I made it bigger. I got a lawnmower and made this huge lake. It only had to grass.
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh, it needs digging out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of stuff there. So I contacted the council, Mr. Hyde, obviously.
Planning permission.
Oh, we had no idea how big we were going to get.
For this lake.
Turns up, because he could see me measuring up, he says, what are you thinking of doing there? I said, digging a lake. He got planning permission. Is that all he does? Drive around looking. Haven't you got a job or an office? So he says, if you're going to, you need planning permission for digging it. And then if you're going to move any of the soil off it, you need excavation rights and a haulage licence.
Shut up.
What? Just to send it down the road? He says, yeah. He says, you have to keep it all on site, but you can't go higher than 3 foot. So I thought, right. So I said to Ivan, you heard all that? So he says, yeah, that's okay. We can do that. That's no problem. So I says, what do we do? So he says, we'll get somebody we'll price it up, get somebody in. So a chap came to see me and he said, I'll dig you this lake that big, leave you them 2 islands in like you want, put a shelf round it. So I said, yep, that's all right. He said, it'd be about 45,000 quid.
Holy moly.
This is me who's just spent a tenner
on
plastic chairs and he wants 45,000 quid. I says, I will not bother about a lake. We'll leave it. We'll just leave it as it is, and if it floods, Anyway, so Ivan said, no, that's fine. I know somebody who's got a digger. So I said, yeah, but this is the big lake. He says, don't worry. Who turns up? Henry.
With a big digger.
with the biggest digger in the world.
So is that the first time you met Henry?
And that's the first time I met Henry. And Henry is as far backwards as you can go in history on looking at him. So much so that when he started digging it all out, I took some photos, made them black and white, and you wouldn't know if it was in 2020 or 1920. You would have no idea because he fits. That's just how Henry is. And they dug it all out, and Ivan never had a day off. He dug until it was, and I think it took about 10 weeks to dig it all out.
Oh my gosh.
And he never had a day off. We had this really old machine, because what Henry and his brothers do is they collect classic machinery. I didn't think they used them. I thought they collected them. So the digger we were using, I think Adam used it, Adam and Eve. I think they had it.
Right at the beginning of time.
Right at the beginning.
If you
it was the first. It was the first digger, and so anyway, we get this love. That's it. That's going on to that.
Adam and Eve, the forbidden apple, and then
and
this
Henry.
digger.
Henry was what happened if you had the forbidden apple. So anyway, so we'll come back on. That is a story because you need.
had these planings.
So we got back to the planings, and then Ivan came and he spent all day
Rolling
until 10 o'clock at night time. And then the next morning, I'm laid in bed at 4:30. What's this dream? Oh, Ivan's bike. We'd only got it for 24 hours. He'd borrowed it off of one at mates.
Yeah.
And he said he'd do a deal. I don't know what the deal was. I still don't know what the deal is today. But he got us this unbelievable, it was like a billiard ball.
Yeah.
Billiard table, just flat black. I didn't realise that the ground round here moves every month.
It
but
does,
to
yeah.
start off with, it was lovely.
It was lovely, yeah.
So we could cope with about 80 cars.
Better.
That's a bonus.
Yeah.
So we never got 80 cars for a
No.
long time. But we started it. So that was that bit sorted. And then so from there, so we got us plastic chairs. Or the other thing is, you never saw my first gift shop, did you?
No, I didn't.
All right, my first gift shop is, what's the best way of explaining this?
Sorry.
The shelf unit that I used is one of those that they get in IKEA now that separates two rooms. It was about 3 foot long, 3 shelves, what you put in your bedroom.
Right.
3 shelves. I bought 4 of those, tenner a piece, screwed them together, had them stood in front of the counter, and we could hold 15 teddy bears on it.
Nice.
Yeah, 15 teddy bears. Some of the people that arrived that bought me out, I mean, I'd started a business, I sold out on the first day.
Lovely.
Yeah,
Very good.
15 teddies
Nice.
gone. I think they bought them because they felt sorry for me because they kept spilling the tea and they knew I'd only got plastic chairs and things. So they actually, some of the people still come today.
Yeah.
So on the very first day, Sue and Steve,
Yes.
they arrived, and it's amazing how you actually judge people when you shouldn't. So Steve, as you know, he's a big lad. He's 6'6". His necklace was heavier than me around his bracelet, and he's got this big chunky thing. And he's looking at parrots, and
You helped you build some of it, didn't he, as well?
Eventually,
Yeah.
but initially I'd never met him at this point.
Okay.
So he just turned up
Yeah.
with Sue, and I'm serving, and I saw this guy.
You
come.
know far too many people called Steve.
Yeah, there's a good few Steves,
It's
isn't
a
there?
problem.
Yeah. So this is Big Steve. We all always
Right,
call
okay.
him Big Steve, and he
So you
turned
met
up
him first day
that we opened.
that you opened.
Never seen him before until then.
Okay.
Still see him now today,
Yes.
25 years later, and he stood there and he's like, and I'm looking, I'm thinking, aye, he's come to burgle and pinch all parrots.
Oh.
So he starts talking to me about parrots, and I thought, aye, he's weighing me up to see what parrots I've got. He's obviously like I knew he were a multimillionaire, and he's got more parrots than half of Britain. And he's like talking away to me, and he's on about these, and I'm thinking, what do I say to him? Because I've obviously got to put him off because he's going to be here tonight. He's going to ransack me and take the lot. And then by the end of it, we're talking this conversation, and he says, what are you doing there? I says, well, I'm going to be putting a trench in there because we need to get some pipes. And he says, do you know anywhere where you can get a little digger from round here? So I says, no idea. He says, I'll give you a number. If you're stuck with them, give me a call. You can have mine for as long as you want it. So,
Oh, that's lovely.
well, it were, but 20 minutes ago, I'd got him in Armley. I'd got him locked
Yeah.
up and sent to prison. Now he's giving me a digger. So Sue, who's his wife, always probably the only other person I know that works at my rate.
Yes.
She never stops, and she's probably, I think she works harder than me. She never, ever stops. And she's really, really good at spending Steve's money. So this is what she said to him. She says, he says that I'm going to drop Steve a little digger off.
Right.
So she says, what for? She says, to dig that there. So I thought you didn't need that digger. I thought you've got loads of diggers. Well, I have, but I'm going to sell that. What, are you going to sell it? Why don't you give it him? He's a little charity. He says, because I've only just met him. Just give it him. So give it me.
Oh my God, did you really?
Yeah. Got this tiny little digger. And then, so that was brilliant. And then we've been mates ever since.
Yeah.
I think he's been taking money off me ever since for digger. But he's still lovely. He still is brilliant. So some of these people that arrived are still coming now.
Yes.
So at this point, so if you imagine, so you've walked through into the cafe. When you come out of the cafe, I got into trouble because we called it the Nest Cafe.
Right.
So we put a sign up that said like Nest Cafe coffee and put it up there.
Nest Cafe.
Yeah, because we're parrots, I got Nest and Cafe.
Nest Cafe coffee.
Yeah, they came and got me.
Yeah, I can imagine they did.
Turned up and said, can you take that sign down, please? So you're joking. How much did it cost you to come and say? Anyway, I put it on the news.
Right.
Got it in the news, so we got a bit of advertising out of it.
Lovely, that's good.
And then he contacted me and said, it's all right, you can use it.
Really?
I got into trouble for other one as well, Simples.
Yeah.
I got into trouble for that
Yeah.
because I kept saying Simples and I put it on our website. Somebody grassed me up and they came and got me the company.
I've tried everything.
I've tried everything.
Tried everything.
Any way we can to get people in here, we've tried it. So anyway, so now we're open.
Yes.
Oh, we're actually open, and I get a call while we're open, and this is quite funny. I get a call from a chap who everybody will know now, and one of our lads that was working for me, so a volunteer, asked if he could come and work here, called Neil, and he was a cracking lad, a really good lad. And so
where did you meet Neil?
He just turned up.
Oh right, okay.
He just turned up here. Nice kid, really nice kid. And he said, I've got a parrot. I work down at a place called Finn Forest, which is a little wood yard. Well, not little, a huge wood yard in Boston. He says, and we work unusual hours. Can I do you a bit of volunteering? Well, I'd never heard of what volunteers do at this point. So I said, yeah, of course you can. Anyway, he ended up being an absolute diamond. He was a big, strong, strapping bloke. He was into everything. He weren't into building, but he was very quick to learn.
Yes.
And he had an absolute, unbelievable, do they call it adoration? If you adore somebody so much.
Yep.
About somebody called Derren Brown.
Right.
And he's constantly, now I didn't know where he was going to this, but he was going on about, well, what I'm going to do is when I've been seeing Derren Brown, what I'm going to do is go and do this. I'm going to mention parrots to him. And I'm thinking, who's Derren Brown?
Who is this man?
Who's Derren Brown at this point? So, and he says, have you heard of Derren Brown? I says, I'm sorry, no, I've no idea who it is. I says, if you haven't got a parrot before its name or after its name, I don't know it.
Not interested.
I'm not interested. So he says, no, he says, Derren, he says, he's got a parrot. So I said, oh, all of a sudden I'm interested now. What kind of parrot has he got? So at this point he had a Senegal.
Yep.
So I said, that's all. I think he called it Figaro. Or was that? Yeah, I think he called Figaro. I've been talking a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, all right. So he says, and he's coming to Skegness next year. So I says, right. He says, he's starting a new tour. He says, so I'm going to contact him. And so when you come to Skegness, do you want to come and visit some parrots? Because he keeps saying in his press articles that he likes parrots.
Yes.
So I said, yeah, all right then. I said, well, good luck on that. And he gets a phone call from Derren.
Shut up.
Yep.
Direct.
Yeah, direct. Saying, yes, when I come over there, I will nip in and see you. I'm like, bonus, that's quite good.
That's great.
In the meantime,
Yeah.
is there any chance you can look after my parrot while I go on tour? So I said, yeah,
Absolutely.
of course I can. So he said, right, do you want to come down and meet me? And we'll go through what it is. Obviously, I don't know who he is at this point.
No.
So, and there's not a lot of Googling in these days. We're talking in 2003, something like that. So it's out,
Yeah.
but there's not a lot around.
No.
So I'm obviously utilising it as much as I can to see who he is
Yeah.
and what he does. So we goes down to see him, me and Neil. And he lived on his absolute fascination with Sherlock Holmes. And he took me to his place on Baker Street, naturally.
Yeah.
What a place he lives in. What an amazing place. And as I'm talking to him, I'm thinking, this guy's actually quite nice.
Yeah.
He doesn't come across as a celebrity.
No.
He's very, very real and very personal.
Down to earth.
Down to earth. So he
Yeah.
says, come on, we'll go for a meal. So he takes us for a meal. And that was my first meal I've had. I don't know how many I've had with him since, but this was my first meal with him. And we were sat talking. And while we were sat talking, like Derren sat opposite me. And we were talking, and obviously I knew he was a hypnotist, and I knew this. And he kept staring at me. You know, and as he's talking to me, he was on about, like, because I kept saying to him, I've seen some of the things that you do now, and I've looked at them, and it's like, I said, it's obviously, and he always used to say the same thing, well, I'm not magic. And I said, no, I know that, but you're very good at what you do. You're very good at what you do. And I said, and I understand if you don't want to talk about work. And he says, no. He said, that's fine, that's okay. But every time I'm talking to him, he kept, like, looking at me, really strong in the eyes, and I'm thinking, he's trying to hypnotise me. I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to hypnotise me. So I'm not going to look at him. You know, this is in my head. Don't look at him. So as we were going on, well, we were talking away, he'd actually had, I don't know what he'd had done, but he'd had something to do done with his eyes. And you know, like when you like, I don't know if he'd tried contacts on or something like that. I don't know what he'd done. But when you're actually going like that because your eyes are sticky or something like that, that's what he was doing. But I thought he was trying to hypnotise me.
The poor man just had an issue with his eyes.
But
and
he
you're
had
like, I can't look at him.
No,
He's trying to.
What did you
think he was going to do?
I had no idea. I'm walking around like a duck, something like that. So he said to me, so we got on like house on fire, really, really well. And I'm sure on that first night, I'm positive it was that first night, that I mentioned if he'd like to be a patron of the charity.
Yes.
And from me asking and him saying yes, he has been forever. So if it were on that night, he's been a patron for the last 23 years, 24 years. And he's the one that's introduced me to lots and lots of, because he's had loads of celebrities, loads and loads. But he took me to his house, we went to his house at Baker Street. And I've been to most of his houses now. And this particular house that he took me to is like, it's so big. Yeah. But so, if you imagine how Sherlock Holmes' style was, that's how his house was. Yeah. And he's into taxidermy. Weird and wonderful taxidermy. Yeah. And his sense of humour was so quick. Unfortunately, bless him, Neil believed every single thing that Derren said. And one of the things when you walked into his house, he had this, I don't know what they'll call it, but it was an item. And it was an item that I think he'd got from one of these like universities. And there was like 4 different animals that had been into taxidermy that had all been put together. So it's got like frog's legs, gills,
I see what you mean.
Little arms. So they'd used bits from different things and created this thing. And Derren had got
like a monster.
Like a monster. Yeah. So, and he was into that kind of thing. So I'm looking at it, and you could instantly see what it was. Yeah. And I'm sure Neil could see what it was. But when he actually asked Derren and said, yeah, he says, like, obviously before they became extinct, it didn't say much more than that. And then he like looked up to me so I could see that it was a joke. Yeah. But Neil was so gone. And then Derren was like, how do we get after this now? Because I made a joke, into joke, and he actually thinks it is something. So I think we had a little bit of a laugh about. Then you walk round, and there was this huge white peacock. Right. Full-size peacock across the mirror. Yeah. And it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it was into so wacky, weird and wonderful things. And he said to me, I was just fascinated in his artwork is amazing. Yeah. He does these huge 6 foot, 7 foot, like what they call like caricatures. He actually took me into this room. Yeah. Probably a bit bigger than this where we are now, the podcast room. And it was just all full of little boxes. Right. That's all it was on every shelf. Okay. And there was loads of shelves. And then we walked in, he says...
I love a blind box.
Yeah, and he says, and he says, God almighty, what are these? So he says, everyone is a magic trick. And everyone, I don't know how many, he might call us after this and tell me, they've got to be at least 5,000.
He sounds like a character in a movie.
Oh, he is. I mean, if you talk to him, I'm going to tell you 1 or 2 stories. It's quite frightening with him. And it was like, I'm looking at him, I think, this is amazing. I said, this really is good. I said, right. And he said, right, are you ready? So I said, yeah. He said, off we go. There was no door. And I'm like looking around and thinking, where are we? And it was just all boxes.
Oh my gosh.
All the way around. And what he'd done is very cleverly, while we'd been in there, he took me to every corner and showed me around, so I had no idea which one would come in. And I'm looking, he says, there must be a magic box somewhere. There must have been over 5,000 boxes. He says, just
Shut
press.
up.
I don't say, honestly, just press one on the door. It'll open. I said, but I can't even remember what wall it would in. So I spent about 15 minutes, and I think he got fed up with me. And he just walked up and pressed this one. This door opened. This wall opened where he'd been in this. Amazing.
Oh my God.
He took me to one of his other houses that he was in, and he'd just done a. I don't know if any of you guys will have seen it, but part of I don't think he ever wanted to do things that were controversial.
Right.
But he liked to trigger people's questioning.
Yes.
And right from the very, very early days of Russian roulette, which is one he did that caused the most controversy.
Yeah.
He did others where he could actually, he used the power of suggestion.
Yeah.
And he could get people to do things without them realising. And one of them, and if you ever watch it, one of them was, it got people on the top of a building. And he said, if the worst came to the worst, would you be able to push that man off the top of the building? And I'm not going to tell too much in case you want to watch it, but basically, ultimately, he gets somebody to push somebody off the top of the building. But what he did, he had a very, very expensive dummy made that was identical to this man.
Yeah.
So when they came to push it off, this dummy fell. Right, so they thought they'd actually done it. So I goes to see him at his place to see his parrot.
Yeah.
To go and see his parrot in London. I walks into his place and there's just Derren, his PA, which was somebody called Coops.
Right.
And this old chap sat there. So he said, do you want a drink? So I said, yeah, okay, no problem. So he said, take a seat. So I sits down, said hello to this bloke, sits down. I could have swore this man said hello back to me. So I'm having a drink, and he then came and he says, we had a party last night. He says he's absolutely shattered. He had a real bad hangover. And if you looked, he was breathing. What I didn't realise, it was this dummy that had fell over the thing, but it was so real. And I sat beside it for 15 minutes. And I had no idea that it was this dummy.
You numpty.
So he says to me, and this is the kind of things he were into. Probably the funniest thing on this actual building that he had done up for himself, and he'd done it up really lovely. They had a penthouse suite at the top, which was a rooftop that you could go onto, but you had to go up some ladders to go onto it, and then you went through an automatic loft hatch.
Okay.
So as you were going up, it lifted up, and then you went onto this really posh decking area, and I said to him, whatever happens if it's up there like that, and you're all down here, and it rains? And he said it's all automatic. As soon as any water hits it, it just closes. And I said, that's brilliant. He says, it is brilliant, unless you're all actually out there having a party. And it does it, which is what they were doing.
Oh.
They were all having a party, just one shower of rain hit it, and it closed and locked them all out on the road. Locked them all out there, and they all got quite wet.
I can imagine.
So, but I mean, on Derren's side, and I'm not going to go on about Derren all the time because this is like a, a Derren portfolio. It's just, I mean, I don't really get a chance to see him that often. We talk all the time. We talk if he needs any help, if I need any help.
So
if we do anything.
how long after opening did he visit you? Do you think like a year?
No, less than a year.
Yeah.
About 6 months.
That's
we
crazy.
was
so he
like
really has been here for from the beginning.
right from the start. Yeah, I mean, and he was just, and he's supported every single thing we've done. And when he comes out, he just loves animals. And the other thing when I was saying about him being a celebrity, he never acts like a celebrity ever.
Yeah.
And if there's anybody, I've never seen it. I mean, I'm hoping he hasn't changed because he's got such a cracking sense of humour. I hope he hasn't changed from what he used to be. But if anybody, any single person walked up to him, he'd just talk to him. And people obviously, because we once had this, I'm not going to say anything nasty, but we once had this Derren Brown fan club turn up. And they were going to raise us some money.
Oh, that's nice.
It is, but they were very, very Derren Brown fans. You know, they
Right.
were proper. So much so that we had a party for them. And on it, we had a big screen. And on the big screen, we had Derren Brown playing all the time. And Derren had sent this big teddy bear up for us to auction off.
Oh, lovely.
Well, it was lovely until I was stood at the other side of the screen making them drinks. And all his followers was watching him on the screen. And every word he said, they were all saying. so
Someone else does that with songs sometimes when they're playing on radio too, and he's on his computer and he thinks no one's looking at him. Or when you've seen a funny TikTok and want to share it with all the managers, and then you watch it and you're also saying the same words because you've watched it 10,000 times. I know someone like that.
This is what they were doing. This was like a cult. It frightened me to death, and all of a sudden, I was like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And what's this? It's like, these are proper into Derren, these aren't these are... But he raises a few quid. But he's a... So Derren, I mean, Derren's literally been a part of what we've done. And he's been here. He came when we had the very first lemurs here. He came when we had the tigers here. He's followed and supported everything without... And also we went through... I mean, we'll go through all these stories as we go. We went through some real hard times when we had some, like, animal rights activists attack. And the first thing they do, anybody who was against you, is they attack all your supporters.
Yeah.
So they contacted him and said, what are you doing being associated with these people are keeping parrots together, keeping these flock birds living together? What are you doing? And he actually contacted me and said, don't worry, it don't make no difference, they'll not put me off. And unfortunately, it's a tax you have to pay. It's him that said that to me. It's a tax you have to pay. The more successful you get, the more people attack you. And that's what happened. I mean, literally with him, he was from start to finish a supporter, and every person he's put us in touch with are still in touch with us from now.
Yeah.
That's quite
That's
cool.
very good. Although we have only literally touched on the plastic chairs. We have diverted quite a lot today.
Well, yeah, I think the plastic chairs was really more to show you what state. I was trying to think that the things that had happened that would actually. The only other thing I can imagine that would happen, because obviously when you're open, everything's so exciting then.
Yeah.
But when you look at what we do now,
it
weren't really exciting, because I look and I think
it's still an interesting story.
Well, it was, but I just
but
look at
what I was trying to say is we've not even really had the first full week of opening yet.
No, because it all becomes like lost in
different stories.
In different, yes, because it, like when when you actually start doing, if you organise somebody's party, everything's so exciting, but if you're the one that's organised it, you don't see the party excitement, because you're the one that, is that working, and is this going to happen, and is that music going to do everything? And that was like me, because I was like running about like one of them blue flies, like making sure everything's okay, and I didn't realise that we were open.
Yeah.
Because like day one, you imagine day one, you've got the press, you've got everybody involved, and you open the doors and you're looking for that first person to turn up. That you just open
the zoo licensing one.
and you're just hoping they're gonna turn up.
Yeah.
Well, what's day two like?
Yeah.
It's like, well, that was the exciting day. What do I do now?
Yeah.
And then you've got to open every single day until
Do
COVID
it all
comes.
again. Yeah.
Every single day to do that. It's only when I got halfway down the line and looking and thinking, why did people come back? Because when I was talking about the planings with Ivan, I ain't got no paths.
No.
So Ivan says, well, why don't you put some planings down? But I could put some planings down and level it, but I didn't have no edgings.
No.
Because I couldn't afford any. So it was just like, it wasn't even a path. And the first play area I had was some tykes, little cars that I'd got from a car boot, cost about £3. And the oldest, smallest kids' bouncing castle you've ever seen, that would be too big, really, too small for 3 kids. That's what I had, and that's where Zori is, the Black Panther now. That's where I had the first play area. So there's a lot of them stories of, because everybody obviously naturally thinks that when you build one of these places, you must be absolutely loaded. You must have got fortunes to do it. I'll guarantee you, the day we opened, I think, well, I didn't have 50 quid. Because I had to borrow 50 quid to go and get the chest.
Now?
Now we've got even less. Probably the best story that I can tell you to finish on. This is a nice little story to finish on this one. So when we very first opened, we got masses of publicity. Literally. Everybody was fascinated. This is the first parrot sanctuary in the country to open. So anything to do with parrots, they phoned us. Whether it was a news item or anything.
Yeah.
And within the very first 4 months of opening, there was a very clever garden centre down, I don't know, Winchester, something like that. Very clever. And the reason they were very clever is that they said that they owned Winston Churchill's macaw.
Right.
Now, and every year, nobody seemed to bother about adding it up. Because they kept saying they got, and I said, like, how old must it be? This Winston Churchill, and did he have a macaw? So just by chance, I get a telephone call from a news agency saying, do you know much about Winston Churchill's macaw? I said, no, I've heard about it. I said, this one's about 400-year-old. I said, I've heard about it. And they said, yeah, I think I'm sure they were saying it was his 100th birthday or something like that. I said, that's novel, that's really good. So he says, can we ask you some questions about my cause and how long? I said, yeah, of course you can. So throughout the day, I'm getting telephone calls. And this is my really first, experience of how much press you can get with a story. So, and then I get a call from somewhere in Ireland, and I thought, oh, we're now international. We're across the water.
We're across the pond.
We've crossed the pond. Can we talk about this? And I said, yes. So then I get a telephone call from a news agency that had a real accent. And I said, and he says, right, he said, this is whatever from such and such, and we're from New Zealand TV, like BBC. And I said, what, actually in New Zealand? So he says, yeah. He says, we're calling you now to ask you a favour, and that is, we want to do an interview with you live.
Right.
And I said, yep. He says, about Winston Churchill's parrot. And I thought, well, it don't make no difference the fact it's a Winston Churchill's parrot, because I can say what I want because they're going to be in New Zealand. Nobody's going to be bothered. No. So I said, yeah, of course I can. He says, obviously, the only negative is we're a breakfast show. Right. So for us to do a breakfast show live, you're talking 7 o'clock at night here. Yeah. So I thought, that's all right. That's no problem. I can do that. That's all right. He says, what I think I had got used to was, we are only a trivial story. Yes. So if we're doing anything, we get this all the time. If the press come here and they do a little bit of a news article with us, they will say it might be on. Yeah. But if something major happens, then you will just get shoved off. So I said, and so he said, and they said the same. He said, you might be on. He said, but we'll give you a call about 7 o'clock. So I said, yep, that's no problem. So I'm actually getting quite excited.
That's nice. That's
about
good.
This. So it's quite good. It's again a little bit of a nerves, and a press. We're going to be known worldwide. So I getting ready, and it's 7:15 at night time, and I'm getting all ready, and it comes to 7 o'clock, and I know how strict they are. Right. And no phone call. Oh no. So they've left me. They've abandoned me. And our story isn't that exciting. So I'm a bit disappointed, and I said to Dawn and the kids, never mind, we nearly got known around the world. We nearly did. I'm going to have a bath. Oh, no. Yes, but no, it's worse than that.
Did they call in the bath?
No, I went to the loo first.
Oh, no.
So I was actually sat on the loo.
Having an interview?
The first international interview.
In New Zealand?
And I didn't know it was them. It was just a phone call. So I answered it. I don't even know why I answered it.
What?
And
why did it not occur to you?
Well, in them days, we're talking mobile phones. They didn't show you numbers and things. That's true. So I picked it up and I answered the phone, and he says, "Hi, Steve. Sorry that we're late, but however, we're going to do the 7:31, and we are on breakfast television. Are you ready? Can you do it?" And I said, "Yeah." And I spent 15 minutes sat on the loo doing my first international interview. And I've never forgot it to this day. In fact, I think I still got the same toilet seat. When we had a new bathroom suite.
That's so gross.
When we had a new bathroom suite, I kept the toilet seat and put it to one side. In fact, I think it's in Arc. I think it's what everybody uses in Arc now. No, it isn't. You should frame it and put it with the other. Right, guys. Are you all right? I don't know what you were doing then. You look like you was actually...
She's got lots of little black dots under her chin from where I think she's been eating her food too vigorously and then not cleaning herself properly. So I was just...
She was just she was cleaning the cat while we was talking.
She was enjoying it.
She's enjoying it, no problem at all. Right, guys, that time's actually gone a bit quicker than I thought.
It has.
Well, I'm just going to tell you all the secret. Obviously, from last week, everybody knows that we had a little bit of an accident. And
when we say we mean Steve broke his back.
Well, yes, Steve broke his back and fractured his spine and what have you. And I've been on this medication that is quite strong. And I took some about an hour and a half ago, and it had a bit of a turn with me.
It did, yeah. We did debate on whether we needed to cancel very last
And I said to Jess, just keep watching my colour, because there's every chance I might just collapse halfway through this.
You've done very well, though.
I've done a bit of twitching. So if you think I've got an itchy back, I haven't. I'm just done a bit of twitching, but it's all come back. But we've made it through. Yeah. So is Derren Brown still a patron? He certainly is. Yes, he's constantly in touch with us. He never ever... there's never a year goes by without him being in touch with us.
No, we're very lucky.
And I have just heard, I don't know if this is true or not, he's just got a new tour sorted out. I think they call it something like Only You. Tour. Could you imagine what that means?
He's got a new toe coming out this week.
He's got a new tour. How do you say it?
Tour. Yeah. It's just you also use the same pronunciation for toe. I say toe, you say tour.
Oh, you put a W on yours, don't you? Toe.
What? No, but...
Oh, you put one on that as well. So, tour.
So you've got a new tour?
You've got a new tour coming out this year. I think they call it Only Human, something like that. And it did say that it was going to be in Skegness.
We might see him then this year. That'd be nice.
Yeah, in May.
Oh, right.
It did say it was going to be in Skegness. I can't see that. It might. On his very first one that he did here in Skegness, I remember that.
Yeah.
In 2004, 2005, something like that. And it was amazing because he invited us all out. He invited all the staff, and we all went. I think there was just us there, and Neil, and all them people. And his, I think if you actually added up financially how much it cost him for all these props, it was about 25 quid.
Oh, my word.
Because he had a bucket of glass,
Yeah.
some sand and a blanket, and everything else was done through mentalism, through mind. And he did walk across his glass and everything and got people to do it as well. And then the last one I went to, I think his props cost him just over £500,000 with this.
Holy moly.
Oh, yeah, the amazing setup, this
Oh
huge
my
big
goodness
setup.
gracious.
He could only go to so many theatres around the country because there were only so many could get it in. So if he comes to Skegness, I will be amazed.
Yeah.
But he might do.
He might do.
You never know. So so now we're finishing the Derren Brown show.
We are.
We're finishing that for today.
Thank you very much for being here.
I hope you've enjoyed
our
it.
next podcast is next week at the same time, but this will be released to the mass public next Tuesday, Wednesday.
Next Wednesday morning.
Next Wednesday morning. Other than that, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
This has been episode 10.
10.
Believe it or not.
Yes.
And we'll see you next week.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Do you know what we're talking about next week?
You didn't talk about Maurice.
No.
Yes, you did. Oh, so you kind of slightly did.
A little bit. We will catch Maurice next week, I think.
We'll do that.
We'll see how things go. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you for
we've
being
made it
here.
through another one, and we will see you all next week.
We will.
Take care now. Bye.